What's up, folks? Addy Ads here in New York City, New York. Cold and rainy day here. Cold and wet. It's kind of sleeting here. At 457 Madison Avenue, 455 and 457. Quite palatial, I must say. Many connections here to the Epstein network. One of them being that Darren Endike, who was one of the lawyers for Jeffrey Epstein, registered this address as being associated with the company E-Management, which was operated by one Jean-Luc Burnell, co-founder of MC2 Modeling. Not just that though, there's a Leslie Groff, who is the target of a lawsuit, civil lawsuit, I believe, by Jennifer Arauz, A-R-A-O-Z, along with Kimberly Espinoza. And Arauz has asserted that both Espinoza and Groff helped facilitate and schedule massage appointments and sessions between Arauz, Jennifer, and Jeffrey Epstein. And we know, we already saw Kimberly Espinoza take the witness stand for the defense as being a longtime executive assistant for Ghislaine Maxwell, working for Maxwell just a month after being hired by Epstein. But Mark Epstein said there's no relationship between those two entities, that being 457 Madison Avenue behind me and OSA Properties, which, if we recall, manages the majority of the apartments at 301 East 66th Street. So this address here, 457 Madison Avenue, has ties not only to J. Epstein and company, but also Epstein interests as well. So multiple ties to the Epstein network here at 457 Madison Avenue. About a 10-minute walk from Grand Central Station here. But we're going to do more updates to come. We're on a day trip here today. I'm going to try to get out of the wet here a bit and see where our next stop is going to take us. Stay frosty, more updates to come. What is up, folks? Our day trip, field trip continues here in New York City. We're in Manhattan, New York. And we're at 116 East 65th Street, the townhouse of Ghislaine Maxwell, a Beaux Arts style townhouse, I believe it's called. 5 stories, 7,000 square feet, has its own media and library room, a room for servants. It has a personal office that extends out into a garden, on a landscape garden. Possible addition for I believe it's a 1,000 square foot rooftop or addition on the roof. Maybe they're going to put the chopper on there. Who knows? But Frederick and Kim Rudd bought this within the past few years. I believe it was 2018, 2019 time range for some $15 million from Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell's house right here. She knows. And again, really luxurious, lavish townhouse. Read a story about tabloid investigators staking out here once when Prince Andrew, who, as we know now, is facing a civil suit from Virginia Giuffre v. Andrew, Virginia Giuffre versus Prince Andrew, which I'm also covering. So we're going to the courthouse in a bit here. But I just wanted to mention this because this was her house. She sold it, and it just kind of shows a window into the world that these elites live. And I actually met somebody recently who's worked, at least peripherally, both in the comedic worlds, the comedy worlds, and the adult film worlds. And this was in about 2005, I want to say. This person told me that on the set of one of these adult film productions, he met some hangers-on, high-class escorts, shall we call them, who they got to talking, chewing the fat. It was revealed that one of their clients was Jeffrey Epstein. Way back then, mid-2000s. So, interesting stuff here. More to come here, 116 East 65th Street, Ghislaine Maxwell's townhouse. Stay frosty. In 2005, according to business records, the address behind me, 30 Van Dam Street, was registered to a company called Saint Model and Talent, registered by and under the property ownership of Mark Epstein. Again, this is according to 2005 business records. And according to the New York State's Division of Corporations, this company is still active, although there's no public trace that leads people to believe that it is actually currently in operation. One of the lesser-known addresses connected to the Epstein network, again, owned by Puggy, Mark Epstein, younger brother of Jeffrey Epstein, and also was, up until 2007, the business address for one Joyce Anderson, ex-girlfriend of Mark Epstein, who works as a photographer who specializes in teenage and preteen shoots and photography of children. I called Joyce Anderson a couple weeks ago, and the quote I got after inquiring about the extent of and quality of her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein was, "I have no information for you. Have a great day." Joyce Anderson said that to me. Again, where's her new address? We already visited there. 301 East 66th Street, also owned by Mark Epstein, Osa Properties. We already covered that. So, Mark Epstein, ties are still deep here. Joyce Anderson, again, moved in 2007. Is she doing completely legal photography, or is there something more nefarious going on there? Now, speaking of her relationship with Epstein, which I asked about, she did not respond. Mark Epstein himself asserted that she had never met Jeffrey and that there was no relationship between them. Joyce Anderson, what's going on? Mark Epstein, where you at, Puggy? We want to find you and ask you some questions. But 30 Van Dam Street, I got to grab some lunch, folks. I haven't eaten yet today. Stay frosty. More updates to come. What's up, folks? Addy Ads here. Still here. Southern District of New York. Thurgood Marshall Courthouse. Here. City Hall. Brooklyn Bridge. Last stop on the 6th. For anybody who's been here before. Juror Craig David spoke out to Reuters and I think at least one other outlet about the jurors' questionnaire, which he reportedly, quote-unquote, flew through. And the government has now opened an inquiry into this juror, an investigation of sorts, with a hearing to be set approximately a month from today as to the background of, and there's the Sky guy over there. I just noticed him. Sky News. The background of this juror and whether or not the fact that he did not relay, or if he did at all, his past sexual abuse, which he disclosed in this interview that he did. And that is a potentiality for a mistrial. So Ghislaine's lawyers, I'm sure, are all over this. And already the government itself, who was doing the prosecuting in this case, are the ones that have opened up this inquiry into Juror Craig David. His assertion that he flew through the jury questionnaire, what he said about the trial, and the fact that he disclosed he himself had been sexually abused as a child, which, is not a juror that the defense wants on the jury. So, very valid, I would say, for the defense team, for Ghislaine Maxwell, to call for an inquiry into this. Whether or not the government inquiry was done because of that or not, I don't know, but we're going to look into this some more. So, again, jury trial. I thought Judge Kaplan was quite a hard nose as far as Andrew's lawyer. Still no decision yet back on the motion to dismiss. I would, if I was a betting man, I would say that's going to fail for Andrew's lawyers. Stay frosty. More updates to come. What's up, folks? Addy Ads here. Let me just check to make sure my mic's good. Looks like it is. Thanks for joining me. We're going to talk about JurorGate tonight. And I was just showing some of the videos I did today on my day trip into New York City. I'm staying upstate now a bit, thanks to a very fortuitous connection that was made over the course of this trial. And going to get right into this right away. This is, I misspoke. His name is Scotty David. He's going by his first name and his middle name. He is the juror number 50 for the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, and he has lawyered up after giving a number of press interviews to the clerk of the court pertaining to the United States of America against Ghislaine Maxwell. case number 20 CR 330. And all parties of record, I am admitted or otherwise authorized to practice in this court, and I appear in this case as counsel for juror number 50, Todd A. Spodek, Spodek Law Group, New York, New York, 10,004. So juror number 50, Scotty David, has lawyered up. I wonder if he's regretting his decision to speak out. I wonder. A couple questions I asked earlier today. Does it look unusual that we still hadn't had a sentencing date set for Ghislaine when the first juror to speak out causes a possible mistrial? I think that's a valid question. And you saw some of the videos I did. I went to 116th East 65th Street, which was Ghislaine's former townhouse. I went to 457 Madison Avenue, business address for J. Epstein and Company. Epstein Interests, E-Management, set up by Mark Epstein, operated by Jean-Luc Brunel, with ties to Leslie Groff and therefore Kimberly Espinoza. So I did a couple of spots today. Also went to 30 Van Dam. No date for a hearing on the Maxwell juror yet. Nathan has set a schedule for briefings on, quote, whether an inquiry of some kind is permitted and are required, and if so, the nature of such an inquiry. Allison J. Nathan, District Judge. The court is in receipt of the parties' letters and hereby sets the following briefing schedule, which I tweeted earlier today, for the defense to move for a new trial in light of the issues raised in the parties' letters. The defense motion will be on the 19th of January, 2022, which is later this month. The government response will be on the 2nd of February, and the defense's reply will be on the 9th of February, a week later. The parties' briefings should address whether an inquiry of some kind is permitted and are required, and if so, the nature of such an inquiry. Although the court reserves decision on whether an inquiry is warranted, the court grants the government's request to offer court-appointed counsel to the juror in issue. Subject to the juror's rights to decline, the court will appoint an on-duty CJA counsel to represent the juror. So obviously, we already saw today that he did get a lawyer. I don't know if it was private or public, but Maxwell's lawyers put in 2 letters today, both of which were pretty redacted. The second of which was heavily redacted. In it, they said no hearing with the juror Scotty David is needed. They just want a new trial. They cite the relevant questionnaire, possibly implying that Scotty David did not disclose the sexual abuse that he is now talking about. So the author or the the journalist who actually broke this story, I have met and spoken with on several occasions. Her name is Lucia Osborne Crowley of Law 360. And if what she says is correct, she indeed was the first person to get an interview with a juror. How she got that interview, I would like to know. For sure. She hasn't responded to my texts or my calls since I saw that this morning. I got tipped off this morning about it. But in her tweet, she said, worldwide exclusive, I secured the first ever interview with a member of the jury, the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. I'm so grateful to Scotty for talking to me about why the jury believed the women who testified and about his own experience of sexual abuse. So I wanted to make that clear because one of my followers on Twitter actually tweeted me about that, calling her a British plant, which I can neither confirm nor deny. I try to stay on good terms with everybody as it comes. So let me read the article here. Ghislaine Maxwell juror breaks silence to the independent. This verdict is for all the victims. For those who testified, for those who came forward, and for those who haven't come forward, I'm glad that Maxwell has been held accountable. End quote. Said a juror in Maxwell's sex trafficking trial to Lucia, as I say, I believe that's the Italian pronunciation, Lucia Osborne Crowley. Very non-Italian last names, but Italian first name nonetheless. His name is Scotty David, wishes to be identified by first and middle name He is proud to have been a part of holding Maxwell accountable for her crimes. Quote, this verdict is for all the victims, for those who testified, for those who came forward, and for those who haven't come forward. I'm glad that Maxwell has been held accountable. This verdict shows that you can be found guilty no matter your status. They were all believable. Nothing they said felt to me like a lie. I know what happened when I was sexually abused. I remember the color of the carpet, the walls. Some of it can be replayed like a video, but I can't remember all the details. There are some things that run together. I didn't disclose my abuse until I was in high school. You might forget some things, he said, but the core of a traumatic memory stays with you. We are not here to judge these victims. We are here to judge whether we believe their stories, but we're not here to judge the decisions they did or didn't make. Again, this is from Scotty David. We cannot judge what they did or didn't do afterwards. It doesn't change what happened. And at one point, obviously Caroline, who, if anybody's been following this case, she's definitely been the most sympathetic victim. She did throw her binder down at one point when she was getting manipulated by Polyuka. I would say manipulated is a good word for that occurrence. It just made me feel more compassion for her, said David. None of that relates to traumatic memory regarding Loftus's testimony. She was able to show us that this was a pattern, said he. We simply didn't see enough direct evidence to convict on count 2, which was the enticement charge. It wasn't about not believing Jane. So maybe some good jurisprudence there applied by the jury. I personally was willing to find her guilty on count 2, but we all decided in the end there wasn't enough evidence. So again, that's from the Independent, Lucia Osborne Crowley, and I'll see if she's up for an interview, guys. But I gotta say, absolutely none of the mainstreamers have been with it as far as collaborating with a guy like myself, a lonely Ronin, a lone samurai. So that being said, I wanted to reiterate that. What does this mean? This means this schedule has been extended, and I have to say, once again, no sentencing date set yet, and we already have a possible mistrial. I think that's a question that should be asked. The question being, is this out of the ordinary? I would say it could be, for sure. And the juror also said he flew through, quote, the jury questionnaire, doesn't remember if he disclosed being a victim of sexual abuse. The U.S. Attorney's Office asked for a hearing, as I reported, in about a month. And once again, they did redact their letter. So the defense's counterattack was headed by Christian Everdale, who, in my opinion, has been the most impressive lawyer, with a mulligan given to Bobby Sternheim, who was kind of set back throughout the trial, given a lot of court time to Menninger, for example. I got to say, Menninger's initial impression for me was much stronger than the way she ended her performance during the course of the trial. But I got to say, Everdale, although he wasn't maybe as consistent, possibly, you could say, certainly didn't get as much court time as Menninger. Everdale's highs were much greater, much more charismatic. I thought he made better points throughout the trial. He sent in a heavily redacted letter presenting incontrovertible grounds for a new trial under Rule 33. Should the defense prevail in this motion, and we believe the law and facts are clearly on our side, it would render all other post-trial motions moot. Ms. Maxwell should not have to expend precious time and resources briefing other motions when this motion can and should be dispositive. Accordingly, the defense respectfully requests that the court set a briefing schedule for this motion alone and defer setting a briefing schedule for any other post-trial motions, end quote. USA versus Maxwell was written to, Judge Nathan was, by Matthew Russell Lee opposing redactions. He said, press requests that redactions to U.S. and defense letters about juror controversy be removed and other relevant documents unsealed. Requests should be docketed and ruled on, dear Judge Nathan. On behalf of Intercity Press and in my personal capacity, I have been covering the above captioned case, including repeatedly asking that sealing and redactions be reduced and that a public call-in line be provided. It wasn't. And we want to laud Matthew Lee for being so diligent and asking for a call-in line for the people of the United States. Now, on January 5th, the government and the defense have submitted significantly redacted letters about juror Scotty David and his print and video interviews, requesting an inquiry or new trial. But the public and press have a right to know what the U.S. and the defense are arguing to the court. Accordingly, the redactions should be removed forthwith. I love that word. And all other relevant, still sealed or redacted documents be placed in the public docket. I have to say, his grammar, it could improve. He's got a couple extra spaces and a period in there, but his diction is amazing. So far, Mr. Lee, very great diction. Well, appreciating that the court docketed before denying Intercity Press's November 12th request for a call-in line. This is a request that this opposition to sealing be docketed as took place in U.S. versus Avenatti. And he cites a docket there. If deemed necessary, please take notice that Intercity Press and its undersigned reporter in personal capacity will move this court before Honorable Allison J. Nathan, U.S. District Judge for the Southern District of New York, at a date and time directed by the court for entry of an order granting permission to the heard on unsealing the improperly redacted submissions of today, the 5th of January, 2022, and unsealing of documents related to jurors, especially Scotty David. More on this to come. So that is really, really great stuff there from Intercity Press. He really does. I gotta say, if I gotta defer to anybody, it's gonna be Mr. Lee, because he's the man. He really is. SDNY is his kitchen. That is his stomping ground as far as reporters go. And again, if anybody deserves the MVP of the trial in terms of reporters, it's probably Mr. Lee. I can't really argue too strongly about that. But lots more shows to come. I got some more shows coming on tomorrow. I'm not going to be traveling out and around the city tomorrow. So I'm going to be home. I'm going to be streaming. I'm going to be doing some writing, hopefully, doing some research, doing some administrative work, trying to beef up my website a bit. But that being said, this is pretty big. I got to say, pretty big development. I got texted by another reporter who is going to remain anonymous because I don't know if she wants to publicly be associated with me, but she's been really helpful behind the scenes about this development. And I knew it was going to be a pretty big day once I heard that. So follow the white rabbit, folks. That's what I'm trying to do here. So I got some more shows on the back catalog and the whole on deck for tomorrow. More history stuff, less current events updates. But this is a big one, I would say. The defense very much justified. Don't know what the juror was thinking. Perhaps he's not a very smart guy, or and this is something I brought up too. Is this something deeper going on here? Is this guy an asset or agent of the Central Intelligence Agency? That's a question that should be asked as well, because agents of the CIA can show up to your local sheriff's department, demand, maybe politely, but they can walk to your local sheriff and tell them, look, you're going to allow us to put on these uniforms and pretend that we are a part of your sheriff's department, and we have all authority that resides within those positions. And the CIA, they can do that. They can do that in any field. They can do it. They can pretend to be a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, a police officer. They can pretend to be a juror. They can pretend to be a judge. It's almost like that they are demons or spirits that can camouflage and put on different capes and coats and masks at their whim. Extra legal power to the greatest degree humanity has ever seen does have the CIA. It's a fact. So, again, dates 19th of January, defensive motion for a new trial. The 2nd of February, next month, government response. A week later on the 9th will be the defense's reply. I want to say a rest in peace to Kev Baker. I got word just yesterday, I believe it was, that he passed away. Really surprising and shocking. I actually emailed him last year for an interview. He never responded, which is totally all right. He definitely has a much more established presence than I do, certainly than I did at the time that I interviewed him. But rest in peace, Kev Baker. So there you have it, folks. I'm gonna sign off for the night. More than likely, stay frosty. If you want to support me, I want to make this clear. I am 100% supported by the people of the United States. I'm 100% independent. I am not beholden to Law 360 or BBC or CBC or ABC or MSNBC or Fox or any of those guys. Even guys like The Hill or AION or OAN or which are morphing slowly into mainstream entities. Epic Times, who I have tremendous respect for, and Gateway Pundit. I'm not beholden to any of these guys' paychecks. I'm completely my own man in that sense. So, and it's only because of people like you, I have to say. So I want to thank you guys for supporting me over the past, we're going on 5 weeks now here in New York. And if you do want to support, Venmo, Cash App, Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, subscribes are all in the links in the show notes below. Rockfin is where I'm sending people for videos now, and Spreaker is what I'm using for podcasts. But again, iTunes is always a spot to get podcasts. So Epstein Files, Addy Ads, Public Intelligence, addyads.one is my website, addyads.one. I'm going to be updating that this week, folks. I promise you. It is time consuming building websites. So it does take longer than anticipated, but it should be very much updated by the end of the week. So, and again, my biggest reach by far is Twitter right now. So Twitter, one Addy Ads, one spelled out, ONEADDYADDS. Otherwise, just type in Addy Ads in your favorite search engine. I prefer to use DuckDuckGo and not Google, the empire that is Google. And the white rabbit behind you looks rather menacing. Take good care of yourself, my friend. Thank you, Tangent. Thanks, Laughing Dog. Thank you, A Girl. Thank you, Arakad. And thank you, Lee. Thank you, Lee Kimberly. Thank you, Lee Kindly. Thank you kindly, Kimberly. Stay frosty, folks. We'll see everybody in the morning because we got some more shows coming.